Second chances. That phrase sounds simple, but in St. Louis and in communities all across this country, a second chance is not always as easy as saying start over. Because sometimes the mistake is over, the sentence is over, the lesson has been learned, the person has changed, the family has been rebuilt, the work has been done, but the record is still there, following them, blocking doors, showing up on applications, standing between them and a job, a home, a loan, a license, an opportunity, or a future they have already worked hard to earn. That is not just a second chance. That is a fight for a life after punishment. And St. Louis understands that kind of fight. This city knows what it means to carry labels that do not tell the whole story. It knows what it means to be judged by what happened instead of what is possible. It knows what it means to have brilliance, resilience, and purpose inside of people who were never supposed to be reduced to a file, a charge, a mistake, or a moment. Because people are more than the worst thing attached to their name. A record can tell you what happened, but it cannot tell you who somebody became. It cannot tell you how they kept going, how they raised children, how they built a business, how they found faith, how they served their community, how they decided, I am not going back, I am going forward. That is why this work matters, because expungement is not just paperwork. It is restoration. It is dignity. It is a door reopening. It is somebody walking into a room and realizing that the past does not have to keep holding the pen over the rest of their story. That is the St. Louis I believe in. A city where people do not just talk about justice, they build pathways to it. A city where community becomes family. A city where someone can say, you have done the time, but you do not have to live forever in the shadow of it. Because a real second chance is not charity, it is recognition. Recognition that people can grow, people can heal, people can become. And sometimes the most powerful thing a community can do is help remove the barrier between who somebody was and who they are still called to be. That is the St. Louis worth telling stories about. That is the St. Louis we are here to document. And today's guest is an embodiment of that kind of second chance work. Today on STL Hustle Insider, we sit down with Sandra Kay Keely, founder and executive director of 3 Daughters and 1,000 Sons, for a conversation about expungement, restoration, justice, and helping people move beyond the record. So, let's get into it.
Every city has stories, but St. Louis has builders. The entrepreneurs, the creators, the culture shafters, the neighborhood leaders. The ones turning vision into movement and pressure into purpose. This is where hustle has history, where legacy still matters, and where the next chapter is being built by people you need to know. Welcome to STL Hustle Insider, the show spotlighting the people, businesses, and movements building St. Louis from the inside out. Hosted by Cortez Hustle, this is where real stories meet real impact. Real stories, real impact. Real STL. Now let's get inside the hustle.
Before we bring in today's guest, it's time to go inside St. Louis Black history. This Inside St. Louis Black History moment is powered by Social Lead Web, supporting the stories, history, and people building St. Louis. Today's conversation with Sandra Kay Keely is about criminal justice reform, second chances, and what it means when people are fighting to reclaim their future. And here in St. Louis, that fight has deep roots. Long before we had the modern language of expungement, record clearing, or criminal justice reform, Black people in St. Louis were already stepping into courtrooms to challenge systems that tried to define their lives, restrict their freedom, and control their future. Between the Louisiana Purchase and the Emancipation Proclamation, hundreds of enslaved Black people filed legal cases in St. Louis courts, arguing that they were legally entitled to freedom. Many of these cases were built around a powerful idea: once free, always free. In other words, if an enslaved person had been taken into free territory, they could argue that they should not be forced back into slavery. So here's today's Inside St. Louis Black History Trivia question. What do we call the lawsuits filed by enslaved Black people in St. Louis courts as they fought for their freedom before the Civil War? Don't Google it. Don't cheat. Stick around because we'll reveal the answer at the end of the show. Now, let's get into today's conversation with Sandra Kay Keely.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When I tell you that I am super excited about today's episode of STL Hustle Insider, I have someone sitting next to me who's probably heading up some of the most important work of this century. And I'm going to let her tell you all about it. But before we get started, she's got to answer this one question. And everybody knows by now what that question is. And the question is this: who the heck are you?
You would ask me that question.
Of course.
I am one of the creator's favorite dreams.
Okay.
That's who I am.
I love
He
it.
imagined a little brown baby
Uh-huh.
dropping to earth in St. Louis, Missouri on April 10th.
Okay.
And I have grown into just one of his favorite dreams.
I love it. I love it. So tell everybody your name and the name of your organization and where before we get into this amazing work that you're doing, I like to take people back to where it all began. So your name?
It's Sandra Kay Keely,
Okay.
and I am the founder and executive director of 3 Daughters and 1,000 Sons.
3 daughters and 1,000 sons. So y'all know just the name alone means we got to get into that. But before we do, Miss Sandra, take us back. What was life like for young Sandra? I kind of like to get the backstory around what shaped the person. And usually there's a pivotal moment that gets them into the work that they're actually doing. So take us all the way back. Born and raised in St. Louis?
Absolutely. I am the third of 8 daughters and 1 brother.
Okay.
My parents are from Mississippi. They came by way of Tunica,
Okay.
and they were a working class family.
Gotcha.
And I learned at a very early age, if there was anything that you wanted in life, you had to go for it. And I always remember the comic books on the back of the pages. They would have these prizes that you could qualify for. So I wanted this bike.
Okay.
And in order to get the bike, I had to sell vegetable seeds.
Okay.
So at 8 years old, I was knocking on our neighbors' doors trying to get this bike. And they actually humored me and bought vegetable seeds, but I didn't sell as many as I needed to get the bike.
Right.
But that started me on my entrepreneurial journey.
Wow, as a kid. And think about vegetable seeds, and my has the world turned because today, if that same contest was going, you wouldn't be selling vegetable seeds.
No, I would.
Ain't no telling what they have you selling out here in
Oh,
these
absolutely.
entrepreneurial streets, but that was the importance and the significance of that era. Everybody had a victory garden. Everybody knew the importance of producing your own food and all of that kind of stuff. That's not the same today. So, I got to ask you the most famous St. Louis question there is, and I'm sure you already know, right?
That's the question.
What high school did you go to?
Oh, promise. I said, I can't answer that. But I attended Sodan High School.
Sodan High School.
Class
Okay.
of 73.
Okay. Almost a Tiger. So I did freshman and sophomore year at Sodan.
Okay.
But this was the year, my sophomore year was the year that they closed down and went international.
Right.
So they wanted everybody to go to Roosevelt. Well, I was living in Wellston. I was already catching a bus, 2 buses sometimes to get to school. I wasn't about to catch 3 or 4 buses down to Roosevelt. So I ended up transferring to Wellston, and that's where I graduated from. So what was life like for Miss Sandra at a high school age? Had kind of already been bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. What was high school like for you?
Well, on top of being entrepreneurial, I was a bookworm.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so for me, a library is like a church.
Got you.
I go in there and it feels so holy, and I'm usually the one that is when they close.
You shutting it down? Now, some
So
people at high school is trying to shut down the club, Miss Sandra. You
Oh,
shutting down the
no.
library.
I check out the maximum, and the stack of books would be almost as tall as me as I would
Wow.
walk home, and I love science fiction.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so to answer that question, in Sodan at that time, they started categorizing according to your intellectual ability. So I
Okay.
was in
Okay.
track 1.
Gotcha.
So we
Gotcha.
were the ones that were to be the talented 10th, if you will, during
Okay.
that time.
Okay. Gotcha. And speaking of that talented 10th, there's there's a lot of debate, it seems like today, around um, whether or not that was a good move, or whether or not we should be more inclusive of other cultures, or should we just be downright for us and by us everything. As you started to develop as a young woman, did you continue down that path of the talented 10th? Were you more pro-black? Were you more inclusive? What was life like as you graduated? And what did mom and dad put into you as it relates to the pride that you should have when it comes to your culture?
Well, because we were a large family and my
Mhm.
father was the only one that worked, my mother was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
There was a real emphasis on us, get the good grades,
Mhm.
then you can get a good job.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
during that season, astrology was the thing. So they
Okay.
were like,
Okay.
"What's your sign?" You know,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah,
Dr.
and I'm like
Jockenstein. I remember Dr. Jockenstein. Yeah.
Now, so this is a true story.
Okay.
Because I came from a working class family, there
Mhm.
wasn't really emphasis on any particular vocation
Mhm.
or professional track.
Okay.
So I looked up what an Aryan was good at,
Mhm.
and it said real estate.
Okay. Okay.
So I wrote that down,
Uh-huh.
and I applied to just about every college that was out there.
Mhm.
And got accepted to Creighton University.
Okay.
But out of the blue, my oldest sister told me about Spelman College.
Mhm.
So the
Mhm.
point I'm trying to make is that all these little breadcrumbs and things that you know
Mhm.
not of, and
Yep.
someone can drop something in your spirit and it
Mhm.
ignites
Mhm.
something. So I applied to Spelman College. Well, I got
Mhm.
accepted to Creighton, full ride. My
Mhm.
roommate even sent the picture,
Oh, wow.
little Caucasian girl, and I had my little trunk packed,
Mhm.
and I was on my way to Creighton.
Mm.
And a week before I was to leave, my financial aid package came from Spelman.
Wow.
So it's like I
Okay.
was snatched from the jaws of death because that September, they had 19 inches of snow.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I really know there is a God. Like I said, I'm one of God's favorite dreams. And
Yeah.
so I ended up in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And it was during the time when Maynard Jackson was running for mayor
Gotcha.
and came to the
Gotcha.
college campus, and we were knocking on doors, and he
Mhm.
won. And it was almost like, I don't even know how to put it, from St. Louis to
Mhm.
Atlanta
Mhm.
at the feet of all the vanguards that
Mhm.
create the opportunities that I
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
experiencing.
Yeah.
So I hung out with the Nonviolent Social Change Center
Mhm.
and just had such a consciousness
Yeah.
awakening,
I love it.
because I have to tell this story.
Yeah.
So that week as a freshman, people from around the nation, they were sitting
Mhm.
around and
Mhm.
they were like, I'm from Chi-Town, I'm from
Mhm.
Philly. And
Mhm.
they were like, well, Sandra, where are you from?
Mhm.
I said, I'm from the North. And they said, where is that? I said, St. Louis, Missouri.
Mhm.
Cortez, they laughed at me.
Wow.
They laughed.
Wow.
They fell out. They said, girl, you from the South. I said, no, I'm not. Well, what it was, as a
Mhm.
child, I
Mhm.
observed the dogs and hoses,
Mhm.
and I knew
Mhm.
that happened in the South.
Mhm.
So in my childlike mind, I said I would never be from the South.
Right.
In my
Right.
opinion, since North
Mhm.
Missouri was above
Mhm.
Georgia,
Right.
I thought
Right.
I was from the South. I mean, the
Mhm. From
North.
the
I'm
north.
sorry,
Uh-huh.
son. It was just such an awakening because we were always told Missouri was the Midwest.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's the South.
Mhm. Mhm.
1820 Missouri Compromise.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when people are here and there seems to be some displacement and disorientation, is because
Mhm.
we've been told
Mhm.
that we're in a
Mhm.
fictitious place. We're not in the Midwest. We're in the South, y'all.
We're in the South. We're in
It's
the
the South,
South.
man. Listen to the accents.
Yeah.
Her,
Yeah.
car,
Yeah.
ver.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So you got to experience kind of the foundation
Yes,
building of
yes,
what Atlanta is today,
absolutely,
going through Spelman, and I'm sure you met some interesting people from all over the world as well.
absolutely,
What
absolutely.
is one thing that really stood out at you now as you look back and you realize you can kind of see the finished product
Absolutely.
of what was developed, but you were there in the early stages. What is one of the things that stood out to you about seeing it all unfold, and now that it came to fruition, that you can kind of connect the dots?
Well, I only was there for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back to St. Louis, and it was at the ease of Mayor Freeman Bosley Jr. running.
Okay.
And I had already uh, wet my chops on him. I took
Mm-hmm.
ownership of Maynard Jackson's
Yeah. Yeah.
success because we really worked hard for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I went to work with trying to have St. Louis come up to speed with having its own Black mayor because so
Mm-hmm.
many other cities had already accomplished
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so I got engaged with their campaign. It was
Mm-hmm.
just so historic,
Yeah.
as we all
That's
know.
right.
And in that interaction, I did quite a few real estate transactions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I was the broker that won the contract to relocate the families when we had the 1993 flood.
Oh,
So for 2 years, I
really?
worked very closely with LRA and relocating all those families.
Yeah.
And again, I, not appreciating that I was from the South, got an exposure when I went to
Mhm.
the South
Okay.
side of
Okay.
St. Louis.
Uh-huh.
And that was very eye-opening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
under his leadership, I served on the Heritage and Urban Design Commission.
Okay.
So some of the projects that have come up out of the ground since that time, I was
Mhm.
instrumental in determining whether they would have demolition permits.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
just again, being a part of history, the Great Flood of 1993, our
Mhm.
first
Mhm.
African
Mhm.
American mayor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just felt like St. Louis had come of age
Mhm.
in terms
Yeah.
of what Black people were capable of doing because I
Gotcha.
witnessed so many sheroes and
Mhm.
heroes in
Mhm.
Atlanta. I
Yeah.
said, if they can do it there, we can
We
do
can
it
do it here.
here. Yeah.
And I don't think people sometimes understand the significance of those champions and those people who are actually doing big things in other places and how it can affect the entire nation, right? You
Absolutely.
were seated with what Black excellence looks like and what it
Exactly.
could be wherever
Exactly.
you touch down and you came back to St. Louis and you went to work. I
Absolutely. I
love it.
did
I love it.
indeed. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got to take a quick commercial break. And taking us to this commercial break is one of my favorite St. Louis artists. He goes by the name of Latif, and I think he calls this one Halo. Keep it locked right here. We'll be right back.
Treading through water, darker than the sea. Shoulders underneath, and it's getting harder to breathe. Never seen it coming, no. Catch me before the fall. Save me from despair. Change, change.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to STL Hustle Insider. I'm Cortez Hustle. She's Sandra Keely, and we lay a foundation of where she's from and kind of what makes her tick. And I think this is going to help you guys understand now the significance of the work that she's doing, but also why she's so qualified to get the job done. So, Miss Sandra, talk a little bit about the organization and the actual work that you are doing, coming from Spelman and helping two Black mayors, get their seat and make history, and then helping to redevelop the city from a real estate standpoint. Now you're on a whole nother mission. Let's
Yes,
talk about
I
it.
am. I mentioned I have 7 sisters and 1 brother.
Mm-hmm.
And my only brother lived in Michigan
Mm-hmm.
and called me during my pregnancy with my oldest daughter and
Mm-hmm.
told me he had just gotten sentenced to 50 years prison.
Wow.
And he was so frantic and he told me he needed money. And I'm like, whoa, 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 what's going
Mm-hmm.
on? What's going on? So he tells me a girlfriend and he had gotten into a little altercation,
Mm-hmm.
and he went to court. He had a public defender. The trial was 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
New judge on the bench. So
Mm-hmm.
apparently she was trying to get some notches in her
Mm-hmm.
belt
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
sentence my brother to 50 years. And he
Wow.
said, Sandra, when she read my sentence, I started laughing. He said,
Mm-hmm.
this got to be a joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he's been there 38 years now. And so
Wow.
he's in Michigan. I'm here in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my real estate background is I managed a mortgage company.
Okay.
And so I learned how to write letters to get people's credit scores up.
Mm-hmm.
So after a while of doing criminal justice reform work, I had this bright idea that when expungement was expanded here in Missouri, that
Mm-hmm.
I could create a seamless blueprint and
Mm-hmm.
process for people getting their records sealed.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Ford through Ferguson had announced a grant,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a beautiful thing because we run into all these obstacles when doing grant application because it's just so complicated. But
Yeah.
it was where I always said my grandson could have completed this application.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
now the thing was, they didn't say how much to ask for.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, there was like more than $2 million in an ask. And they only had 800,000. So they chose 43 organizations
Mm-hmm.
and we were one.
Wow.
Yeah. So we
Amazing.
made the cut.
Amazing.
And because they understood that in Missouri, more than 500,000 Missourians are eligible to get their records sealed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But who's got $3,000 to pay an attorney?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Who has 1,500? Who can navigate the system?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you're in real estate, everybody's got these war stories.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
in my journey, I had a client that sued me for $5 million.
Wow.
I showed him a house that had mold in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in the hospital for a pre-existing condition and saw this story on 60 Minutes that you could sue for millions and we could sue them. And I was like, I've been going in moldy basements in St. Louis forever. I don't see myself being enriched like that.
Right.
So
Right.
I said, no.
Mm.
Well, his lawyer said, sue everybody. So for 2
Wow.
years, I represented myself in a federal lawsuit,
What?
which in the end,
Mm-hmm.
it's settled. But Stephen Limbaugh was my judge
Mm-hmm.
and Rush Limbaugh's brother.
Okay. Okay.
And the first day we're in the chambers
Mm-hmm.
deciding the schedule
Mm-hmm.
because, in my interaction with Freeman Bosley, I knew a lot of
Mm-hmm.
lawyers, and a girlfriend had wrote this motion for me to file. She
Mm-hmm.
said, you can't afford me. I've not argued in federal court, but I'll give you this motion
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
file.
Right.
So I go. And I'm like, I need 20 more days to get a lawyer. And I kept saying, I need 20 more days to get a lawyer. And so they say, Miss Keely, it's been 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We got to get this train out of the station.
Right.
What
Right.
is your schedule? And I said, Your Honor, what is your schedule? And after that, I went off this. Oh, it was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
2 years. And it's
Yeah.
going to be in my book.
Okay.
What really happened. We
Okay.
ended up settling. And the guy that sued me, he got paid, but it wasn't $5 million they
Right.
assured me.
Right.
But I have just become very comfortable in the courtroom.
Okay. Okay.
And so consequently, when we had the opportunity to apply for the grant, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like trying to make it whole for my brother, even though it's here in Missouri,
Yeah.
I took all of my ingredients
Mm-hmm.
from real
Mm-hmm.
estate and applied it to the
To the-
petition process.
Gotcha.
And it
Gotcha.
was just a natural evolution.
Okay. So tell us the origins of the organization. I kind of know that's why it got sorted, but what is the name of the organization once
It's
more?
3 daughters
Mm-hmm.
and 1,000 sons.
Okay.
And our tagline is blood ties bind, but our community ties too.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mhm.
actually have 3 daughters,
Okay.
Bria, Tepra, and Kimberly.
Okay.
And in my justice reform work, we had all these men,
Mhm.
just,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Yeah.
these are my sons.
That's right.
And so I
That's
was
right.
trying to help people understand the spiritual power of 1,000
Gotcha.
in the Bible. You have
Mhm.
1,000 cattle on 1,000
Mhm.
hills.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
10 will put 1 to flight, 1,000 to put,
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
invoke and invite
Okay.
that energy that is creative.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we we're blessed that Stacy Fowler had been a longtime friend. And when I shared the dream with her, she was all in because the collateral, there are actually 40,000 collateral consequences to having a criminal record. It's just amazing.
Wow.
All the doors that are nailed and sealed shut when you have a record. So in America, 1 in every 3rd adult American has a criminal record. And in our community, it's easily 40%.
Gotcha.
And so when you think in terms of what is a criminal record, is any time you interact with a law enforcement official and he documents it, that's a record.
That's a record.
So we try to help people understand that it's traffic, it's trespassing, because this narrative about what a criminal is just really not the true representation. If you have 1 in every 3rd adult with a record and 40% of our community has a record, it gives you an opportunity to pause and say, what does that mean exactly? Because one thing in talking about the work that I do, Cortez, it amazes me sometimes that a lot of people are fearful. Because see, in their minds, when they think of criminal, they think of permanent punishment. And you're trying to get these people off the hook. You know, but see, it's like people have done their time, been made accountable. At what time does the punishment end? And so we're very, very passionate about shifting that narrative about being condemned forever to something that we just did a gentleman. His charge was from 50 years ago.
Wow.
50 years ago. And so he heard about the work that we were doing. Somebody referred him. And a couple of weeks ago, we got that expunged. It was the only thing on his record.
I love it. And that's powerful to me because you said 40,000 negative consequences for having a record. And the other piece that strikes me, we know that it's systemic, right?
Yes. By
And
design.
and when you think about if people like Malcolm X didn't have an opportunity to change his ways from the young man he was in his late teens and early 20s, we don't get a Malcolm X. So now you're telling me that because at 16, first of all, I might have made a mistake. But the system says because I'm a brown man, a black man, then that mistake warrants that I get charged as an adult and not as a teenager, right? That mistake can literally follow me my entire life, even though my brain was not even fully developed enough for me to understand that kind of consequence.
That part. So tomorrow I'll be doing a lunch and learn from Women's Voices Raised for Social Justice.
Okay.
And I thought about how did the United States become the one nation on the planet that incarcerates and charges more of their citizens than any so-called civilized
nation.
nation, exactly. So I did a deep dive and I went all the way back to the 1600s. At that time, they would put people in the stocks or the pillory. So it was like public shaming, right?
Yeah.
And so then after that, they went to the penitentiary. Now that came from a whole religious underpinning saying, well, if you did a crime, if you can repent. So that's where the word penitentiary came from. So they were going to put you in walls where you could sit there and meditate and think about what you had done. So then after that, they came up with the slave patrols. So a lot of people say, well, that's the modern day police. Because again, it was all about control and that these white citizens could come in and watch what we were doing, break the group up, return you to your so-called masters if you were runaway. But it still is a mindset. When you think about the people that came to this nation and planted a flag and claimed that this is our land. So it really, Dr. Greg Carr with Karen Hunter calls it a colonial settler criminal enterprise. They came here and stole a nation. So they already had this mindset of criminality and incarceration.
Yep.
So then after the slave patrols, you came up with the death penalty and how you keep taking forms of punishment and try to find a way to really, I guess, express your unchristian-like aspect to your beingness.
Right.
And so lethal injection, the electric chair. So here we are today. So the digital prison, the criminal record. Don't need the walls. Don't need the stock. We've got you in the computer. So you appear to have freedom, but those 40,000 collateral consequences
They all apply.
shuts you down.
They all
So
apply.
there's your employment opportunity. There's your educational opportunity. There's your financial opportunity. Just even your spiritual opportunity, because we have found that the people that come, their charges are like 38 years old, 25 years old. Some of them have gone on and made a life, but what could their life have been
if
without
they
that
didn't.
collateral consequence, without that electronic prison around you? Because it follows you everywhere. And now with AI, your record is, if it's in there digging up all that data, it's there. 50 years ago, his record was still coming up.
And digital prison, I like
Without
that
the
bit.
walls.
That makes so much sense. But on the positive side, like, I can't help but think about the resiliency of a man or a woman who says, even though I got this record, and even though I can't go down a traditional path of gainful employment, A, I'm not going back to prison. B, I'm going to figure out a way to take care of my family in spite of, and you have brothers and sisters who have figured out how to get into trucking, how to get into contracting, how to get into some of the things where a felony doesn't really affect you the same way that it does in a lot of corporate jobs. But to your
Exactly.
point, housing and all that stuff, I got to figure out, maybe I have to buy a house cash and fix it up because I can't get a traditional mortgage. Like, it's crazy that all of those things are there. But I want to go back to something that you said, because I don't think you said there's 500,000 people in Missouri that could qualify for having their records expunged.
Exactly.
But traditionally, you're talking a couple $1,000s to get the process started. But I even think going beyond that, out of those 500,000 people, I don't think many people even know that that's possible.
You are so
So that's why when I heard what you were doing, I said, I've got to bring Miss Sandra on, because we
Oh
got
my
to talk about and let people know that there's a vehicle now in our state that allows you. So is that also by design?
Well, I had mentioned Stacey Fowler and how she was such a champion for this work getting out. So we partnered and started our clinic at Sumner's Annex.
Yep, I remember.
And Melanie Johnson, one of my little adopted daughters, did a news story on us.
Okay.
We had 250 people registered for the first clinic.
Wow.
And the room had a capacity of 40.
Okay.
We was like, what? And so we're a small and mighty group. So we are still processing some of the original people that registered, but that's one reason why we kind of pulled back a little bit on letting people know exactly what we're doing.
Sure.
And in the meantime, we've got all these receipts showing that we're able to do it.
Okay.
So in that, the Clean Slate Initiative, which is a national organization that has a platform to change legislation so it'll be automatic.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they had a grant application inviting grassroots organizations that did clinics to apply.
Okay.
We applied and we got funding.
Nice.
So on October 31st, we're going to have a expungement clinic extravaganza at Harris-Stowe State University.
Okay.
Because that's our St. Louis HBCU.
That's right.
Campus.
That's right.
And the number one thing, the gift that I try to share is that we are the builders of the pyramids. We are brilliant people, individuals that couldn't read were able to get the Brown versus the Board of Education Topeka passed so that we have access to equal education. Our number one goal is to educate the people about these options.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, number one. And when the people come, I look at how they are super beings. First of all, some of these people have done 10 years incarceration, any number of families broken and destroyed, but they come. Like you talk about resilience, I say they are the super beings and that they can't be held down and that they see a brighter future for themselves and they're going for it. So we operate our clinic as if it's a family reunion.
Gotcha.
We play rhythm and blues. We
love it.
have snacks. And you see how the thing is set up, right?
Yeah.
And so the people, they come in and they just feel the spirit here and the tension and the fear of the unknown. It evaporates. And we have to put people out. We have such a great time. We have
I can imagine.
We have a great time.
I can imagine a person walking into this space and the level of hopefulness that they have, even if they have built a life based on around those 40,000 negative consequences. I can imagine how hopeful they are walking into a room like this and realizing that for once and for all, this mistake that I've made when I was a kid can finally be put behind me. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to take another quick commercial break. As y'all can see, we can talk to Sandra forever, and she can talk to us forever about this amazing work. I told y'all she's doing some of the most important work of this century. But we're going to bring a special guest to sit beside Miss Sandra on the other side of this break. So y'all don't go nowhere, man. Keep it locked right here.
Some men don't need to reinvent themselves. They just need to get back to the standard they already know they're built for. Manly Mojo is a premium men's grooming and wellness brand, starting with a complete beard routine kit. Beard oil, beard balm, and beard conditioner. It is made to help your beard look cleaner, feel softer, and stay better groomed. So when you step out with confidence. Because getting your mojo back can start with one simple routine. Look for Manly Mojo in the upcoming STL Hustle Insider directory with exclusive discounts coming soon. Or check the link in the show notes.
Everybody says they need more leads. Meanwhile, the leads they already have are getting ignored. Hey, where are you going? You might not have a lead problem. You might have a follow-up problem. Social Lead Web connects your content, leads, CRM, and follow-up, so more opportunities actually have somewhere to go. Your content should lead somewhere.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with more of this conversation around record expungement, around the negative ramifications of having a criminal record in America. Miss Sandra, I'm going to be talking about this digital prison from now until the end of time because
that's what it is.
That was amazing. But we've added someone to the conversation. You talked about your 3 daughters, and we have one with you. So tell us your name, young lady.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tapra Wells, and I am one of the 3 daughters. I'm the middle one.
Okay, all right. So you got to be proud of mom and the work that she's doing. I want you to go back to how old you were when you realized the significance of the work that she was doing.
Honestly, my mom has been in community for a very long time, since I could remember.
Okay.
She's been the same person since I was a young girl, but I want to say first grade was my first interaction with the work that my mom does in community. She enrolled us in an elementary school that is no longer there or existing. It was Thurgood Good Marshall Elementary. And and so, like, just being a part of those experiences, my mom always made sure that we were learning about African-American history. She was always taking us to her meetings, and incorporating spirituality in our faith in whatever we do. So, a very young age, I've seen my mom do incredible work in the community.
Okay, Miss Sandra, like you named the organization 3 Daughters. Why is it so important for you to get your children involved in a movement like this?
Because when I look at the demographic of
Mhm.
my daughters,
Mhm.
and I want to be a grandmother with a bunch of grandkids,
Mhm.
but we have so many young men are incarcerated,
Yeah.
underemployed,
Mhm.
not in a space where they celebrate their innate wisdom and intelligence. So that's
Mhm. Mhm.
for a very selfish reason.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we have to reclaim and encourage our young men so
Mhm.
that our culture can continue.
That's right. That's
And like
right.
I said, in the work that I'm doing, we are just basically wired for genius.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
are. And
Mhm.
so I just try to pour that into the
Mhm.
individuals that come, but I don't have to do much of it
Mhm.
because they're here. They understand who they are.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. Well, I am thrilled that you are doing the work because I have 5 sons, and I understand one of my biggest missions in life was to keep them out of the system, right? Because I knew, even as their dad, um, what I could do to help them still become, gainfully employed and all of that kind of stuff. But I just innately knew about the 40,000. I didn't know it was that many, but the
there's research.
40,000
Yes,
ramifications
I can
around.
there's a resource that
Yeah.
collects all that data.
So when raising them, I didn't want them, to have to go through that. So I am so appreciative of the work that you're doing on behalf of myself and my 5 sons. In fact, my mom had 13 grandsons before she had our first granddaughter.
Wow.
So we had a lot of boys in
Right,
the
look at
family that,
that. Because I got all these girls. I got 3 girls, my mother had 8.
Mhm. Cool. So, anything else that you want the people to know about the organization? I know you mentioned a little bit about the event that's coming up, but
Yes.
anything else you want them to know about this amazing organization and the work that you're doing that we didn't cover?
Well, I did want to do a little bit background about how we are supported by the state of Missouri and
Mm-hmm.
that there are almost 2,000 charges that are eligible.
Mm-hmm.
Like before 2016, I think there were maybe about 11 things you could seal.
Okay.
And so we had champions like Jamila Nasheed and some other
Mm-hmm.
people that put forth the legislation
Mm-hmm.
that increased the opportunity for you to get a second, a third, and a fourth opportunity. And
Gotcha.
so I'm very humbly impressed that
Mm-hmm.
Missouri has stepped up to the plate.
Okay.
Now, right now, currently, sexual and violent crimes are not eligible,
Mm-hmm.
Class A felonies, but there's a treasure
And
trove.
and let's be clear, like, some of them shouldn't be,
Right.
right? Like
Yes.
like, some crimes are really heinous, but if we go back to Jim Crow and the Black Code and all of that stuff, a lot of these little micro infractions were written specifically for us and
Exactly.
to create the situation where the 13th Amendment slavery can continue and
Exactly.
that kind of stuff, so
Yes, exactly.
so I'm glad that there's 2,000 of these little micro infractions that can be sealed at
Expunged.
this point.
And
Mhm.
I would want to give credit to the 22nd Judicial Circuit.
Mhm.
We did a town hall, and former Supreme Court Justice George Draper was the moderator.
Okay.
Judge Joe White was the person that took people through
Mhm.
how to fill out the paperwork.
Okay.
And we're partnered with UMKC Law School's Ellen Sunny. And so in our clinic, we give you the tool,
Mhm.
we show you the video,
Mhm.
and people have been able to take the tool and expunge their own records. So
Gotcha.
I'm happy to announce that we're all about education. And
Mhm.
so as the different ones come and they have situations like with warrants
Mhm.
and how we just, whatever resource that's out there, we try to put them in the right direction. So we are open for business, and we really want one thing that we're thinking about doing, because so many people that have these traffic issues don't have money for fees.
Mhm.
Well, back in
Mhm.
the day, you could do community service.
Right.
So
Right.
we're getting ready to put together a community service program with
Mhm.
civic education
Okay.
and reach out
Okay.
to the various municipalities and let them know
Mhm.
that one lady, she had 38 tickets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
38 tickets. I mean, it'd be like
Yeah.
mind-boggling, But if you don't have your tags right, you're trying to get to your job, everybody's got a story. And so one thing we always say in our clinic as we're talking about this path along expungement, the expungement journey, we say, once you get done, run for president.
There you go. Because
well, who's in the White House?
That seat is open for just about anybody these days.
And so then I say, well, there is a movement in the nation. At least almost 50% of the people understand you should not continually be in a digital prison with a criminal record.
That's right.
Who is in the White House?
The White House.
Y'all, this is August 24, 2026. So if you all are viewing this video years from now, I'm not going to give his name. We all know who he is.
Who is the president in 2026?
Yes. So that's what I want to share. But I'm just so grateful that all of my experiences that on one hand, it looked like it was evil, but God meant it for my whole community's good.
Amen.
Because I have done the brain damage. I'm so comfortable in courtrooms. I got condemnation, bankruptcy, divorce, and sued for $5 million.
I told you, he's a perfect person to be doing this work.
Yeah, and pro se. I only had one attorney that helped me, and I didn't understand about contingency. That's when University City condemned my property on Kingsland, offered me $6,000 for it, and I sued for $100,000. I was my own expert witness. I chose the jury. So for a time such as this,
man,
I got ready. I'm ready, so I didn't have to get ready.
There you go. There you go. So before we get to these last couple segments, Tepra, anything you want to say about this amazing work? I know you kind of helped your mom and a lot of the tech stuff and the marketing and helping to keep the brand visible. What's on your mind before we get?
Absolutely. The goal for my collaboration with $3 and 1,000 Sons, I'm also a business owner. I am the founder of Tepra Marketing, LLC. And so that's where we step in with $3 and 1,000 Sons with offering a platform on social media for folks to find us. A lot of folks, when they come in, I'm always asking, how'd you hear about us? How'd you hear about us? Some of it is word of mouth, but others are Facebook or I saw you all in the newsletter that we've been seen in other organizations. Another thing that I assist $3 and 1,000 Sons with is getting us seen through journalism or news coverage. So like my mom expressed, Melanie Johnston, she was one of the first. She sought us out and was able to put us on a platform that allowed us to be seen by many. So I just want people to know, hey, if you are interested in learning more about $3 and 1,000 Sons, go to our social media. We have Facebook and LinkedIn. We also have a website, $3 and 1,000 Sons.org.
Gotcha. I love it. Well, Miss Sandra, we've got our final two segments of the show. And this first segment is something that we call Top 5 RSTL.
Okay.
Born and raised here, I want you to give me your top 5 RSTL, whatever. It could be restaurants, it could be places to hang out, it could be people to know, it could be anything. But if I wasn't from around her, and I bumped into Miss Sandra and said, hey, tell me about this city, what should I get into? What would your top 5 recommendations be?
Well, the number one, because I am an old soul and I am Tran-African, and I just want to make sure there's no disconnect between our ancestry, is the Gateway Arch. And to sit down there on the steps and observe the Mississippi River flow by. A group that I used to hang out with likened St. Louis as being really in the heartland. So you have the Missouri River and the Mississippi River, and they converge just like our arteries do in our body. So it's a very sacred and holy place, and you're looking across the river toward the Cahokia Mounds.
That's right.
So the arch is more just like gleaming aluminum to me. It has deep, deep spiritual underpinnings.
Gotcha.
So again, I truly like the St. Louis Zoo.
Okay.
It's beautifully landscaped. It's free.
And it's free.
It
One of
is
the
free.
biggest and best and still free zoos in the country. So we got the Arch #1
and the
St. Louis Zoo #2.
And so then I really, I told you I have a love for libraries. So the main library and my exposure to real estate, I'm just so enamored with grand architecture. So we have some very bold, noble.
Should I say Tartarian architect? No, we're not gonna say that.
We're having class, y'all. Look that up.
No, she said grand architecture. Like,
oh, okay. I got it.
Listen, every time we go by certain places, my wife says, go ahead and say it. And she knows what I'm gonna say. We ain't build that.
And she's right. Okay, we're gonna have to have a study group.
That's another conversation.
Because I love the library, and because I came through this season of What's Your Sign, there is a book called Astrology of the Soul by Jan Spiller.
Okay.
I really highly recommend that people get the book because I am so blessed that when I had Tupper when I was 39.
Okay.
So we would go out and go shopping, and the people were like, "Oh, are you having fun with your grandmother?" She said, "She's not my grandmother." And I said, "Well, tell them I'm your mom." They never would say that. But having said that, I get a chance to hang out with this generation. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So I'm very in tune with them hearing the voice of, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Get the book, Astrology of the Soul, Jan Spiller.
And I'm going to jump in before you get 2 more pieces, because the other piece, and I'm glad you said that with your daughter, having her later in life. KRS-One, the one of the pioneer hip hop rappers, talks about this all the time. When older people hang out with younger people, they move faster than the older people their age.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when younger people hang out with older people, they move with more wisdom than the people their age. And we talk about systems, and those destructive systems is the one that separates the generations.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So this is amazing to see you guys. So we got 3. We got the Arch, we've got the zoo, we got the library, the main branch, downtown St. Louis, which we ain't build that either, y'all. Just so y'all know.
I love it. He won't, y'all. He won't.
All right, so you got 2 more.
Okay, so I love the planetarium.
Okay.
And then the last thing is I got to think about my favorite place to eat because I am a foodie.
Okay.
I love food.
Okay.
But because I started out with science fiction, and when you go to the planetarium, it just opens your mind to the cosmos.
That's right.
And,
That's
there's so many people in St. Louis that haven't been anywhere even off their block. And we need to encourage each other to just know that there's more than St. Louis, but that we are really the center of the universe.
That's right.
Because what happens in Missouri, it impacts the whole nation because we are the heartland. So the planetarium.
Gotcha.
And so now I'm trying to think, where's my favorite place to eat? Now that's one thing Trevor and I, we enjoy. We go to these events and they always feed us.
Always got
And
good
we
food.
decide which event we're going to attend. We're like, let me think. Okay, my best. And I know even those seem like to be structural type of things, they have very spiritual underpinning. They're more than just the brick and the mortar. They are the spirit. They're the soul. So I'm like, where's my best place?
Yeah.
Okay, where I had something. Oh, okay, I have Kathy's Kitchen. In Ferguson.
Okay.
I did enjoy her food. I like the environment with the little highway going up and down. I love that. The food along the Route 60.
And I almost got stuck in there because I forget the national politician that came, and of course they wanted to show that they down, so they wanted to find the best Black-owned restaurant to come and eat at. I wanted to say, oh, man, who was the Speaker of the House? I think it might have been Pelosi came to town at one time, and she went to Kathy's, and they shut the and I'm like, "I gotta go." She everybody was like, it was amazing, but I do enjoy Kathy's kitchen food. Okay,
And they bring 'em
okay.
to
Good, good. Well, we got one more segment before I let you get out of here, and this one we call freestyle. This is where I beatbox and you drop a rhyme. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So freestyle is as I'm learning the game of journalism, I realize as an interviewer, I don't always ask the right questions, and the conversation doesn't always go where you may have wanted it to go. So in the event that you have something that you want to say, freestyle is where I give you 60 seconds to say whatever is on your mind that you want people to know about you, your organization, or something worth reiterating at this point. But we do that in a 60-second drop. So let me set you up, right? Ladies and gentlemen, you are getting ready for freestyle, the Sandra Keely version. Give them what you got, sis.
Hey, one book, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson's Jay-Z Made in America. We have 3 types of hustlers.
Okay.
We have the site hustler. That's the person that can look around and make something out of nothing, shine shoes, collect tin cans. Then we have the blight hustler.
Okay.
That's the one, prostitution, drugs, just using the mother wit because other frequencies and doorways have been shut. And then we have the bright hustler.
Okay.
The one that wants to go to college, to become a doctor, to become an entrepreneur.
I love it.
So, woo, 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 STL Hustle.
There we go. Drop the mic. Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another STL Hustle Insider. I'm Cortez Hustle. She's Sandra Keely. Check out the organization, y'all. More people need to know that expungement is a real thing. And now she's aggregating the resources around how to get it done effectively. A lot of money. Y'all just didn't know this was a thing. So just go ahead and pay what it takes to go ahead and get your record expunged, man, and get those things sealed so you can live an even better holistic life.
Before we get out of here, let's answer today's Inside St. Louis Black History question. Earlier, we asked, what do we call the lawsuits filed by enslaved Black people in St. Louis courts as they fought for their freedom before the Civil War? The answer is the St. Louis Freedom Suits. The St. Louis Freedom Suits were legal cases filed by enslaved Black people who argued that they were entitled to freedom. Many were based on the doctrine known as once free, always free, which held that if an enslaved person had been taken into free territory, they could not legally be returned to slavery. And that matters because this history reminds us that Black people in St. Louis have never been passive in the face of unjust systems. They fought in courtrooms, they challenged labels, they used the law as a tool to reclaim their lives. That connects directly to today's conversation, because second chances are not just about mercy. They are about dignity, restoration, and the right to have a future that is not permanently defined by a system. That's your Inside St. Louis Black History moment for today, brought to you by Social Lead Web by iHustle Media Group. Learn more at ihustlemg.com. Until next time, folks, hustle up.